Hi, this is Paul Mitchell with SFX and Playmaker Strength and Conditioning. One of the biggest problems we see with young athletes is their lack of coordination. Once we develop their coordination, their speed, their quickness, their strength, their balance all comes. But the first thing we try to do is get them coordinated so that they don't have to think about the next movement. So today what we're going to do is use the speed, agility, quickness ladder to show you how we develop coordination. So the first drill we use to develop this coordination that we talk about is one, we're going to stretch out their hamstrings and just get them to get a rhythm, because rhythm is the key to sports. All sports is a rhythm. When basketball players shoot, there is a rhythm. They spend hours shooting this. Football players drop back and they take the same amount of steps. All sports is a rhythm. So when we're developing this coordination, we want to do the same thing. We want to develop a rhythm. So the first one I use here is called the high knee march, okay? So we're going to plant that foot, we're going to get in an athletic one position here. And from this position, we're going to drive into that first one with the right foot, okay? Boom. And when that right feet comes up, this left foot is going to come up. We want to make sure we got a couple of keys here. We want to make sure that they're in the running position with those arms. The same thing we always teach as strength coaches. Hip to cheek with that running motion. That knee is parallel to the ground. That foot is also parallel to the ground. We want to make sure we don't want that foot back there hanging in the back, right? So that athlete, this athlete is going to hold on to this position for 2 seconds. When I count to, when I finish counting to 2, he's going to move the next foot into the next rung. And go. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Go. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Now the second part of this drill is now we're going to ask the athlete to not only put that foot in there just as they did with that high knee march, but we're also going to ask them to get as high as they can on each step to develop that leg strength, and also once they hit that landing to be able to balance on that foot. That's leg strength and developing the balance at the same time. Again, going into that same coordination we talked about. And 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Now the second one we use, this is called a forward skip in the ladder. So now you're going to see us drive that same knee up. We're going to get this active foot, we call it, as high as the opposite knee. We're still working on that strong knee drive. We're still working on that quick turnover here. But now we're going to start to go a little bit faster here as we get through the ladder. Remember, the purpose of a ladder is to get from that point to this point, from yellow line to yellow line, as quickly as possible. But we want to make sure that we maintain correct form, have that coordination. That's what we're working on right now. Go. Very good. As you saw, Julian went through the ladder. He got his knees up high. His knee was parallel to the ground. The toes were parallel to the ground. But the most important key there was that rhythm I talked about in the beginning. Every time they put a foot down, we heard a double tap. Pop, 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 pop. The next exercise is called quick skips. Just like with the forward skips, we're still working on that strong knee drive. We're still working on that quick turnover. But with quick skips, instead of getting that knee up and getting that foot up, the active foot as high as the opposite knee, now we're only going to get that foot up as high as the opposite ankle. So we're working on a whole lot more quickness here, trying to get through the ladder quicker, but with that same double tap that we asked the athlete to do in the previous. That's what we want. We want to get through this ladder quicker now. Remember, when you're doing the speed ladder and we're working on coordination, it's not a strength thing in terms of we're not working with the muscles. We're asking those motor neurons to fire more rapidly, and we're asking them to fire in a better syncopation. So that's what you're really working on. The athlete is not going to really feel tired from this. They're going to feel more mental fatigue tomorrow or neurological fatigue tomorrow. But that's what we're working on. The fourth exercise we go through now is called run-throughs. And here, we're going to take out the double tap. We're just going to ask that athlete, now that they've learned, now that they've got that good strong knee drive, now that they've developed a little bit of quick turnover, now we're going to ask them to run through this ladder as fast as possible. But because these rungs are only 12 to 13 inches apart, now we're going to ask them to be able to put that foot down in each space in the way they want to. Ready? Go! When running through this ladder, it's a good thing. If you saw Julian as he went through the ladder, he actually missed the space. That's a good thing. That means the athlete is trying to physically get faster through this ladder. If your athlete can actually put a foot down in each one of these rungs all the way through, they're not going as fast as they can. We want them to miss some in some instances because that means they're trying to get faster, trying to create that greater leg speed as they get through the ladder. So you should be looking for them missing a space. If they don't, they're not going hard enough. Go. Good. One of the things we want to do is we going through these run-throughs and all of these drills from the very beginning is, and I haven't addressed it yet, but make sure that everything we can do to one side, we ought to be able to do to the other side. Typically, your wide receivers, for example, should be able to line up on the right side of the line with their right foot forward. But if they line up on the opposite side, they may have a need to switch feet just to trick the defensive back. I never want my defensive back to know where I'm going. So switching up my feet means he still won't know which direction I'm going in because I can always plant and cut in with that foot. So we want to do the same thing. If we can work with the left foot forward every time through the movement, also we'll be able to make sure that we can do the same drill with the right foot. This is the last one of this sequence, but the last one that we use to sort of develop that real coordination that we want is called the Icky Shuffle. Now here's one that a lot of coaches teach. Unfortunately, a lot of coaches teach it the wrong way, so we're going to show you our way at least and how I think this drill should be done. The Icky Shuffle is designed to not only put that good leg speed and turnover that we talked about in motion, but now we actually have to plant and cut. So we're going to do that with this drill, okay? Perfect. As you saw, Julian kept his body inside the ladder, and that's the most important thing with the Icky Shuffle, is to keep your chest inside the ladder, and you can use this technique of 1, 2, 3, or you can call it out, in, out, in, out, in, as you go through the ladder. Typically what we see though, is coaches teaching so that the athlete puts the foot way out here, 2, 3, way out here. So you end up getting this motion, and the athlete ends up going side to side more than they're getting down here going forward. Again, when I told you at the beginning with the speed ladder, we want to get from that end to that end as fast as possible. It's a speed ladder. So we want to try to eliminate that side to side movement and make sure that the athlete goes past that. Good. And that's how you want to perform that Icky Shuffle. You want to get from one end of the ladder to the other end as fast as possible. Keep that chest inside the ladder. And if you have to, you can slow your athletes down by making them do the high knee version to make sure that that foot plant's right outside that cone. And that'll get them to straighten up and not go side to side. Thank you very much. This has been Paul Mitchell with SFX and Playmaker, and this is part of our Playmaker How-To series. Thank you.